I saw through Yonder window, mostly out of pure curiosity. I love Shakespeare, but I have seen a lot of Shakespeare, so I don't know that a production of Romeo and Juliet would be enough for me right now. But the idea that I was going to stay in my car, that it was going to be immersive, that it was going to be an hour, I had just so many questions. So I was so excited to go. I took both my kids, my 11-year-old daughter and my 14-year-old son, and my husband, because we thought, well, we're in a car. They can like have a blanket if they don't like. They can be comfortable. They can eat their snacks. They can ask questions. Kind of a perfect fit for test driving my kids' interest in Shakespeare.
Right.
I almost have more questions now having watched it, even though I loved it.
Thank you.
Well, you did a fantastic job, and you're a really great mover. I want to ask you first off, did you come to acting through dance or dance through acting?
So yes, I actually started in dance. I've been dancing for 15 plus years. And then I kind of blended into theater fairly around like my 5th grade year. And that's when that passion started to grow. But then it's always kind of been mixed up ever since.
You're studying to be an actress though, correct?
Yes, yes.
Where are you at in your studies?
So I actually recently just graduated from the University of Utah.
Yay!
Yeah, I just received my BA in theater studies. And so that's just the general degree that encompasses pretty much everything in theater.
Very cool. I got my BFA in theater education from the U, so I'm
Awesome.
a fan. Tell me about, like, did you know what you were auditioning for when you auditioned for Through Yonder Window?
That's so funny because this particular show really didn't really have a complete audition process, at least for most of the performers. In a way, we were kind of just given these roles. Technically, this show was kind of like a revamp of a previous show that we were actually supposed to open right before COVID broke out called
The Chocolatier?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so I was cast as the Divine in the Chocolatier, and so it was really kind of like that was the audition that kind of led to this show. But yeah, I did not expect to be cast as Juliet, so that was a really nice surprise when we all got that notification.
Was the Divine not then like an ingenue type role?
Oh yes, it definitely was. Yes, I'd say it definitely was the most ingenue type, kind of like seductress, but kind of bold in her own way. So I guess there's some character connections there.
I want to jump on that word bold because there is a point in your show, and I don't want to give spoilers, although I think you'll close by the time this publishes. There was a point in the show where I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how this ends now. And I know this show like the back of my hand. So they're doing things. And it was so exciting to me because Juliet was fierce.
What can I say?
How did that telling come about?
It was very cool. So when we started the whole rehearsal process, our director, Graham, he was telling us about our character development. And he was talking about how he wanted this Juliet to be completely different from the traditional sense. And he really wanted to see kind of like the wild child, free spirit, doesn't really listen to anyone, beat of her own drum kind of girl. And I'm like, let's do it. I'd say it's very opposite from what people would expect Juliet to be. And so it was a really nice, really refreshing new face to put to her.
Yeah, it definitely was unexpected, but at the same time, my brain cycled back and kind of like reverse engineered in this weird way, like, this is who she is though. Like, this makes so much sense now. We've seen this like submissive, docile person, but that's hanging on to like an echo of, Shakespearean times that is totally unnecessary for other script justifications of who she is.
Definitely. And so and just like in the whole space that we were performing, there was so much to play with. So why not change the character arc? So it was kind of nice to kind of take a whole new turn to the character in a whole new setting, but still stay somewhat true to the traditional storyline.
There was this really fun moment. There was a super fun moment for my son where he pointed out one of our windows because obviously the show's in 360, so you guys were kind of everywhere. And it was near the end, if not completely after the part of the balcony scene where you're actually saying things. But
Right.
you're still up there, engaged in the moment. And he was like, look, she's over there, it's Juliet. And we all like turned, because we're really kind of far away from that situation. Where we were placed was much over by the church.
I
And
see.
and I don't remember anything other than what was happening in that moment that you were doing. Like, I'm sure other stuff of this show was going on, but we were all like riveted 40 yards away, like at this strange angle with what you were doing. And it was a kind of thrilling that live theater hasn't given me for a long time, if maybe ever. It felt like so much of what you guys were doing was kind of private, but not private where we were uninvited, private where it was like, this is just for you.
Right.
How does that feel as an actor?
I love it because my main intention as a performer is to create a connection to the audience, and this space was like the perfect opportunity to do that. And so yeah, like just creating a story that you may not be able to see super well but still be able to connect with it, and yeah, just have a natural reaction to it it makes it all worth it.
What kind of playback of energy are you feeling when people are in their cars in the audience?
Very different. It's a very wide range of emotions. Most of the time, it's just like in awe because most patrons have never been in this, atmosphere before, let alone seeing a show in a parking garage. So that's kind of just like this general, awe. But when we start dancing with them, when we go like right up to their car window and just like we're right in their face, it's kind of like a shock. Be like, whoa, like you're literally in my space, but I can't really do anything about it. And so there's like shock, there's amazement, and just overall fun, because it's just such a new experience for most of them. So it's just really nice to get that mostly positive energy and just to play with that too.
I don't want this to be reductive of like your technique or your craft in any way, but part of me was thinking like, how hard is it then to keep your actor face, like to stay in the moment because we're in our cars, so we really feel like we can't be seen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a moment where Romeo spoke to Friar Lawrence like through our car, and I felt so in the way and very like I didn't want to interrupt their conversation, but there was no way for me to get out of their conversation. And so,
Right.
and I really want to be in there. I want to hear what they're saying. So I'm sure that my face was more expressive than my typical audience, polite, like I don't exist. And we both sort of tacitly acknowledge that I don't exist. Was it hard for you to not respond back to people in the car when their responses can be so much more?
Yes. I'd say it is somewhat easy, and it wasn't as difficult because we are masked most of the time. But there was a night, I can't remember which, but it was this one particular audience member was literally shouting at me outside the car windows, when there was a scene where I'm like having this whole like torture kind of like dance section, and this person, he's saying like, fight it, you can do it, si se puede. I'm like, who is this person? Like, he was very into it, and that actually motivated me to kind of like work off that. And so it was hilarious, but in the end I'm like, thank you, I needed that little extra push. So there's a whole range of just audience involvement, because some of them get so into it that they literally become a part of the show.
We spotted there was this car a couple cars down where their kid was like climbing out of the sunroof a little bit just to see better.
Yes.
And I loved it because, if you're in a theater in a house and the kid's climbing all over the chairs, that's going to probably be problematic for your own attention.
Right.
And I felt like there was nothing any of the other cars could do that would take me out of the show.
Right.
Um
It's yeah.
well, please
Oh, just like there's something very cool. Like, of course, I've never seen the show like through a car. There's something very cool, like having the car window, like kind of like as a screen, and having that as your view. Even though you are physically in the space with us, it's almost in a theater sense like a proscenium type of experience at the same time. So yeah, I can only imagine what that is like for the audience.
With the masks and the antibacterial gel that is like on the set and used.
Yes.
Oh, this is such a nitpicky question, but I'm so curious. Was the stuff in Friar Lawrence's and Maria, who's the nurse name, right? Was the stuff in there like disinfectant, or was it just straight water?
Like their little.
Yeah, the ones they wear.
Oh yes, it's straight water. Yeah.
Okay, I kind of just wondered,
Yeah.
because there's this overt intention of making your world make sense to our world, and our world not making any sense, but having all these new things that we have to do about staying away from each other and cleaning our hands.
Right.
How much of that was artistic, like we want this world to relate, and how much of it was logistic safety of the actors, like, also you just touched each other, so now when you're blocking, why don't you go over to the antibacterial gel? Like,
um that's a good question. For the most part, we wanted to use the water more as like a symbolic thing, especially since both the nurse and Friar Lawrence, people of the church, only have those little water uh, flasks containers. They wanted it to be more of like a baptismal kind of effect. Um, it's also nice to just have a little have your hands clean for a moment because the ground is very dirty. So any time is is appreciated. But yes, anytime that you see like hand washing, it's really more of like the sacred, you know, symbolic baptismal kind of sense. I do it once to Romeo after he kills Tybalt, kind of like in an act of I forgive you and like I will help you clean your, wash your hands of this, and then the plot thickens. So yeah, just anytime you see water, and it's actually really beautiful because at the end of the show, I feel like I'm giving away so much. But without sharing too much, Friar Lawrence and the nurse, they have such a beautiful connection throughout the whole show, and of all the people who interact with each other, they're actually the only ones who physically touch at all. And so it's such a powerful moment at the end that they wash each other's hands physically. And it's just so impactful because, it kind of says like, not even this, world that we're living in that has this plague can keep us apart. And so that's what makes them leave. And yeah, it's such a beautiful, beautiful ending.
I get chills as you're talking about it, because I got chills when it happened. We were aimed where we had a perfectly clear shot of their exit, and they were silhouetted by the white light coming from the other part of the parking garage, and it was just like it could not have been more perfect a moment. And like our whole car was just like, whoa. That part was amazing. I have so many like tiny little questions. So you wear this white shirt and you dance like all over the ground of this parking garage.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are plenty of times where you're out of our line of sight, so I'm not entirely sure, but I got the sense based off of what I could see that nobody ever really stops in this entire performance. Like, how
Right.
exhausted are you? How sweaty are you? Like, and then you had to do another show like 45 minutes later. So
Yes.
talk to me about that.
Oh, Liz, this show. I have never been in a more physically exhausting show. And that says a lot because, I mean, as a dancer, every performance you are, it's, just physically taxing. But this show, not only incorporating dance, but, acting, but with like half your face. So, and, all on like an uphill ramp in a parking garage. It is definitely, I'm very grateful for my like athletic background because I don't know how else I'll be able to keep up with this role. At the same time, I'm actually very grateful for the opportunity to use both acting and dance in my role because I don't really get to use that super often. So I'll take I'll take, I'll take the endurance that I have to do with it, because it is quite unique to see both physicality with acting and dialogue, especially in this space. And so I feel like it only adds to the experience, because since you can't see our face, and since you can't we don't really speak um, like live to the audience for the most part, you kind of need a little something else to tell the story. And so I feel like it's a perfect fit, regardless of the exhaustion.
Did you rehearse in the space like the whole time? Because it would seem kind of pointless to try rehearsing anywhere else.
Yes, the space was actually the hardest part to start rehearsals, because we were just trying to find a venue to do the show. And so once we found this space in the Gateway, yeah, we just started right away, because it's such an odd space. It's concrete. There's, I climb up a ladder to this second floor. There's so many like levels that you can't really like mark in another space. And so we really, yeah, had to kind of solidify everything and where we were performing.
Anything else about this that I haven't asked you that you're like, oh, I could say this and I really want to?
Um, I mean, I just like me personally, I was very amazed at the response from the audience, because just like throughout rehearsal, most of this show is improvised. There's a lot of improvised moments, and just very first thought reactions. It's not, most scenes in the show aren't staged. And so a part of me was kind of worried that some things might not be interpreted well, or people might understand what's really happening, because it's really just through physicality. And so I was like, oh, are people gonna like enjoy this? Like, will they understand that this is the actual story, but then there's a huge twist? And so there are all these like little moments of like worry and like doubt that this will actually be a show people will want to see. But once we opened, I was amazed. I'm like, wow, the theater is thriving. Like they say, like crisis demands art, even in these hard times, that they are willing to see this projects that we made. It's such a beautiful feeling to have, that there are still people um, who want to be a part of this art, and people who are willing to see it at the same time.
Cool. Thank you so much.